Um, there we go. Thanks, Shelly. So if you don't want to be in camera, don't have to, but we'd love to see you if you are available. Feel free to enter your thoughts in the chat as well, or come off mute if you'd like to. Just be aware that we are recording. And also keeping in mind that these conversations are from a BIPOC lens. So we are centering our experiences, our perspectives in this conversation. We'll get in a bit more about Shelly and I a little bit later, but I do want to recognize the land that we are joining you from. So there's a few other folks who are here in Surrey as well. Shelly and I are both located in Surrey. So we have the honor of joining you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen First Nations, who we know continue to care for and sustain this land. And I think understanding that history is important for us to recognize how we place ourselves in this land as well. And we all have our own histories. Myself, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, so is Shelly. And so there's a whole history of my African descent, of Indian descent, of the Indigenous people there in Trinidad and throughout the Caribbean that is part of our history as well that we bring to this land. So I'll turn it over to Shelly to share a little bit more about us.
Thank you so much, Shalima. So some of you who've joined us in the past are familiar with our name Kaiso Careers. For those of you who are new, Kaiso Careers really originates from some of our background, which Shalima and I mentioned that our parents are originally from Trinidad and Tobago. And the whole word Kaiso really comes from the music and the culture of Trinidad. When we think of Kaiso, it's a fusion of African and Latin and Indian, and it's just a fusion of all these different cultures that have created this music, Calypso, Kaiso. And the reason why we chose this name is because we wanted to honor our heritage. In addition to that, Kaiso was also used when people were enslaved. They used this type of music to actually share messages secretly so that the masters wouldn't know exactly what was being said. And another part of the work that we're doing here is really focus on amplifying the voices of BIPOC folks. We saw that there was a need to create this type of space where we could really showcase the amazing work that people in our communities are doing. And that's how we really decided to launch into this work that we're doing here. Thank you, Shalima. I think are we doing it on here for, there we go. All right, great. The next thing we're going to do is share a little bit about ourselves and our guests. So as you know, my name is Shelly Vidal, and my background is very diverse. I'm an educator working at Langara College. I also work as an EDI consultant for HRX. I am someone who's passionate about business. I've been in business entrepreneurship. Well, my granddad was an entrepreneur, and so I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, so I'm really passionate about business as well. Shalima, take it over.
Yeah, so my background is in leadership and development. I actually used to do quite a bit of marketing communications. That was actually my full-time career before. And I switched over to leadership development because I saw a need to really support people in understanding their own unique understanding of leadership and how they show up in workspaces. And I also wanted to do that as a person of color, which we don't often see, and I didn't see in a lot of my own leadership development. And so it's something that I'm really passionate about. I currently work with Fraser Health doing leadership development there, both on clinical side as well as the administrative side. And I work in consulting around EDI as well. And so I get to flex that muscle and really support development of people that look like me and make sure that we have opportunities in organizations, which is one of the reasons why I'm so excited to do this with Shelly, really focusing on our own career aspirations, our own entrepreneurial aspirations, and creating these spaces to have these conversations. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Great. So our special guests for this month are Darren and Nerissa. Both of them are entrepreneurs through and through. Darren has been an entrepreneur for decades. He's a seasoned entrepreneur, and he's also a real estate investor. And Nerissa, not only is she an entrepreneur, she's an investor, community leader. She's also the president of the Black Association of BC, and she's been uplifting and supporting Black businesses in BC for quite a while now. So these are our wonderful guests. And as we launch into this conversation, one of the first questions I have for you too is, what would you say is the biggest challenge for you as Black entrepreneurs navigating through businesses here in BC?
Aaron, you want to go first?
Oh, I certainly can. For me personally, I guess it's mindset. You know, a lot of it, I think about, you know, things that I guess the average person wouldn't think about, like, does someone like me? Does someone, you know, understand my accent? That type of stuff, where I'm from, traditions, that type of stuff, the things that I say, the dialect, you know. So in the back of my mind, I always have to keep that, you know, in anything that I do going forward. So, you know, as that goes by, I use different mediums to express myself and to convey messages and that type of stuff, you know. I hire with that in mind. So if I'm hiring someone, I think always on different angles. How would that person be perceived? How would, you know, and then I basically navigate that way. So.
Thank you.
I think I'm kind of in line with Darren, because I think as entrepreneurs here, you always have those preconceptions in the back of your mind, and it's like double the weight. I think that you know that these barriers exist. You know that any situation that you're going to be going into, whether it's a conversation or a meeting or a strategy session or anything like that, that you're going to be dealing with whatever that situation is. But on top of that, you're going to be dealing with those systemic racism issue pieces on top of it. So I think we always go into each situation figuring out how we can mitigate the preconceptions and the barriers before we even get there. So I think on top of the everyday challenges of being an entrepreneur, I think it's an additional stressor. And I think that it's one of the things that we should be concentrating more on as business owners is how we can build strategies into our work and into our home life so that we're dealing with mental health and that we're ensuring that our well-being is balanced. And it's a hard thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of described like two prongs, right? Like that, the work that we want to do to kind of mitigate what we might perceive other people's perceptions of us could be, or their assumptions or stereotypes that they might place on us, whether it's coming into this country with an accent or being Black, appearing a certain way, like what kind of preconceived notions they may have around that. But then also the that mental health piece, like, well, how do I create resilience for myself in dealing with that on a constant basis?
Yeah.
And not like making those messages that could be coming from outside become part of my own mental map. So it pulled me back from that thinking as well.
One of my follow-up questions to that, I think I'm so glad that you hit on wellness, and because that's one of the topics we had talked about a couple months ago. What advice might you have for entrepreneurs who are navigating through this space and need to keep their mental health and their wellness in check? What advice do you have? Or do you have any advice? Like, what do you do?
I think it's a newer space where we're just now, you know, starting to think about, especially as we come out of the pandemic, we're now starting to realize like the impact of mental health on being able to do the best job you can, to be the best person you can, to run the best business you can, and bring and show up every day, you know, 100%. And I think knowing that there are resources out there to help you, I think that you don't have to do it all on your own, and you can leverage people who are experienced in helping to guide you, who provide mental health supports. I think you also have to get out of your own head. And I think, Shalima, what you mentioned, where, you know, you're always thinking about what other people think, I think that really gets in the way, and that can be mental chains on your progress. And I think you have to get yourself to a space of self-love and understanding your competency and being assured of your capabilities, so that you're not always weighed down by what other people think, or what they think of your idea, or if it's valid, and all of these other things that are going to keep you from placing your energy and your time on actually progressing and building your business and keeping your mental health sound. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I don't internalize things, you know. I try to talk to as many people as I can. I try not to be well, obviously there's certain things you want to keep private, but I try to talk to as many people as I can, get as much advice as I can, because, you know, most people, they're ashamed to say what they're going through or whatever, right? So I just try to share as much as possible, get as much feedback as I can, you know, and that helps me out a lot. You know, that's the main thing. I try not to internalize issues and problems that I have, because it just builds up.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think that goes back to some of you know, when we think of our ancestors, how communal we are as a people, right? And I think if we tap into that, it can really help us as we're navigating through some of these challenges that we're going to face, when we realize that we're not in isolation, we're not alone. You know, sometimes people, you know, when they're in their minds, they're like, oh, I'm the only one going through this. No, you're not, right? Like, surprise, surprise, a lot of people go through what you're going through. And by voicing it to people, like whether it's a professional or people that you trust in your circle, then it can make it a little less challenging for you, right? You can get through it. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Kind of raises this idea of professionalism that has been coming up quite a bit in conversations I've had with other BIPOC folks, and how they navigate workspaces, and, you know, going into business meetings and representing themselves, and this idea that, you know, you have to be a certain way to be accepted in certain circles, and even to this idea of like not speaking about the things that are challenging for us. Like, that's professional. Like, keep it all in. You have to appear competent at all times. You have to appear on point at all time. Darren, you talked about like in hiring and thinking about like who you hire, like how do they communicate with other people? Like, there's a whole host of things that kind of center around this idea of professionalism that can actually work in detriment to us if we hold certain standards that weren't built by us. So I'm curious to like hear your thoughts around this idea of professionalism and like what it takes to be in business spaces, as well as like balancing that out with authenticity and not holding like these kind of false standards around professionalism to what it is that we're doing. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are around that.
So again, for me personally, so to play the game, I would describe it of professionalism, right? I after a while I couldn't do it because it's not who I am. You know, I'm a loud person, I'm an emotional person, you know, and like I said, I like to let things out, you know. So finding the right people to work with and who understands who I am, that was a big challenge too. So I had to go through a lot of people, you know, find the right fit for who I am personally, you know, and get that type of understanding happening. So I've literally been banned from meetings and stuff before, you know, they're like, okay, you're not allowed to come back here, right? And the thing is, when I keep quiet or I have something to say, I don't feel good about myself. So I have to let it out, you know? And fortunately, I work for myself. I created that environment where I'm allowed to be me, you know? And I don't have to worry about the consequences of it, you know? So that's my 2 cents.
At least you're fine with the consequences of it. Like, you might not have to worry about it, but like if there are certainly consequences to being authentic. But sometimes those are good consequences, right? Like it's not always a bad thing. And sometimes I think there is this perception that if we are authentic to how we want to operate and you know, being emotive, being, you know, connected and you know, being that person that could embraces our culture. You know, Trinidadian culture is loud, it's inviting, you know, like being that is somehow not professional when it can be. We just need to decide what that looks like for us.
I'll give you guys an example. I would walk into the restaurant and I'll be like, "Hi, Marianne. Hi, Shamila. How are you?" Whatever, right? And but that actually offends some people.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, people look around, it's like, "Why is he so loud?" And sometimes I tone it down, and sometimes I don't. And I'm like, you know what? If they don't like it, they could go with somewhere else. To be honest, you know. So that's a balance, right? And so that's just a little example of what I go through, and you know, so it's I always have to keep that in mind, right? Not everybody can appreciate being loud or being open or being, you know. So these are the things, challenges.
But I think not everyone can appreciate it, but I think if you are the way you just stay true to yourself, that will propel you through life. Because I think if you're not authentic, I think once you get to a point in your life where you're just like, okay, I can't be bothered with what everyone else thinks, and I just need to concentrate on who I am and what I need out of life, you're going to see progress start to come roll in really fast because you're not distracted by other things. So if you don't like my loud laugh, then plug your ears or go away or what. It's not my problem, really. So I remember when I was my day job, I work for the government, and I have a really loud laugh. I'm just a loud person, and I'm always laughing. So I started to hear these comments, "Oh, it's the laugh of the West," because I know, and I was like, really? And I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm gonna laugh. If you want to be miserable and you want to be negative, it doesn't really affect me, and I'm not going to change who I am. And I think in business, as I translate that over to business and I'm running the organization, I feel like transparency and authenticity, people gravitate towards that. And I feel like it's helped me to be able to collaborate with organizations, to collaborate with the government, collaborate with other businesses. I think people need that. I think people want that. And I think if you are authentic, they see it and they want to work with you.
Absolutely, because they know what they're getting, right? It's not a guessing game anymore.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, I can totally agree with you, because I am that one. When I walk in the office, people know that I've arrived. Like, hi, right? And,
yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, when you're not there and then you come back, people are like, "Oh, we really missed you," right? Because they're used to that energy that we bring into the space, right? Which is, you know, it sounds like what you all are saying. It's all positive energy. It's good vibes, right? All around. And people can really appreciate that, because especially when we think about the world that we're living in, it's not easy, right? There's a lot of stuff going on, negative stuff. So when we bring that positive energy to the environment, most of them learn to appreciate it over time, right? Yeah, thank you. Shalima, did you want to follow up with anything there?
Yeah, well, I mean, Nerissa, I heard you mention your day job. And so that in itself, like the amount of things that you're doing on top of that as well. And Darren, I know you have been in the entrepreneur game forever. So I think what is really helpful is to think about, at least I would love to pick your brain on, is how do you make that leap? You know, that decision to actually go out on your own and do this on your own without that full safety net of everything else that comes with a 9-to-5 and you know, benefits and all of that.
You know, I think it's a hard leap to make, because I think coming from a Caribbean family, you're raised, you know, go to school, get a good job, and, you know, and that's that. You don't really, by the time you get to the point where you are really considering entrepreneurship as an actual, you know, support for your financial stability, you've already, you know, committed yourself, you have family and you've got bills and you've got all of these things. And now you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I transition to entrepreneurship while still being able to support my family, but while still being able to pay my bills. And because of some of the barriers we have as Black people, I think we don't always have the access to funding that we need to begin a business that is scalable And I think that we end up bootstrapping a lot of the times, which you'll see
Mm.
many, a high percentage of our businesses are sole proprietors for that reason. And I think if you want to, if you really are in that space where you want to jump to entrepreneurship, you have to just do it. So you can start slow. You can, have it as a side hustle until it, you get it to a point where you can comfortably leave your 9 to 5. Or you can hire, if you want to keep your 9 to 5, you can do that and hire people into your business. Those are all options. If you don't have that option, you can think, and you don't have the financial backing, you can think about perhaps a partner that might be able to go in it with you on a business, and you both will be bringing different strengths to that business. If you have the opportunity to get financing, and I would say right now, if you have an idea, right now is a fantastic time to look to start a business, because there are so many grants, there's loans, there's supports, there's services out there specifically to help Black entrepreneurs start or scale a business. So I would say, believe in the fact that you can do it, believe in your idea, put it out, and you have to start. So, start writing up your business plan, look for resources, look for support systems that can help you navigate that path through entrepreneurship, because it's not an easy one, but it's a rewarding one, because you get that financial freedom, you get your freedom of time, you get the freedom of money, and you're able to balance that work life a little bit better, I feel, as an entrepreneur. And I like being able to be in control of my life. So the work that I have to put in to get there, I think the rewards for Black people as a community, we need that. We need that economic stability in our community, and not just a few people. We all need to be there for the community to rise and be strong.
Yeah, that was amazing advice, Nerissa, I must say. For me personally, I had no choice. I've always wanted freedom. I could never conform to rules. And it was I just didn't have a choice. So entrepreneurship was the direction I had to go. Like people ask me all the time, should I go into business and whatever? And I always tell people, no, man, don't do it unless you really, really, really want to put the energy and the time in, because it takes a lot. There's a lot of losses, a lot of hits. You have to be committed. And I love the idea of taking on partners. I wish I knew that. I wish we had this conversation years ago. And stuff like that. There's a lot I didn't know. And then I just develop as I go along. But for me, I had no choice. I had to do it. I wanted to travel. I wanted to make lots of money. And most and all, to my core, I wanted to help people. So how do I do that with a 9 to 5? I couldn't. So it just wasn't me. So I had to do it. Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
I mean, both of your responses point out some interesting things. So Nerissa, you're like, go for it. You got to do it. Like, this is essential to everyone's life right now, and especially as Black folks, to take this on. And with that caveat that there are so many supports now to do it. Yeah. And you're an access point to many of those supports for those of us that are here in BC. Yeah. And so it kind of raises this, the fact that so many people have had access to networks that have taught them the ropes. They've grown up knowing these ropes, especially in our community here, that we may not have had access to. And so I know, Darren, that you have been in this space your entire life. And your response is a bit different in that, this is a lot of work. Okay? It was a lot of work from get-go. And I'm curious if that's because were there the same networks that you were able to access, or how did you navigate that if you didn't have access to those networks?
So that's a great question. And I didn't have access. I just made a lot of mistakes, a lot, right? Now, what seems difficult is now easy, right? Just because I've learned Like, for example, if I wanted to start a business, I started myself. I didn't know there were government funding. I didn't know there were people who can help me out or give me advice. I just did it, right? Now, when I look to start a business or stuff like that, I just simply ask people. I go to people, hey, I need funding for this. I go, aside from the government, aside from anything, I try to bring in partners, right? And then I try to expand from there, you know? So yeah, so that's pretty much it. You know, I built my network, network
And net worth.
built my
Book.
you know, slowly. And then I believe like forums like these are great because it gets people together. Like even now, I don't really know an accountant that I would, if I knew there was an accountant in the group, then I would work with them, you know, or because I feel like we'll have a better rapport, you know, we'll be able to exchange ideas. And that's why I like stuff like this, right? Because I kind of want to meet more people that understand who I am, you know, I never have that question of like, what are they thinking about me or that type of stuff. And I'm just more comfortable. Everybody is, right? So, you know, and as I expand, that's what I try to do. I try to meet as many people as I can with more skill sets and more education and more experience. And I try to leverage that in a win-win situation for all.
It's interesting because I'm just going to also dovetail back into that question that Shalima was asking when we think about, you know, some folks diving into business thinking it's, you know, it's essential for your survival, and some folks thinking that, you know, it's an option. I think that goes back to mindset, right? There are some people, I say there are worker bees and queen bees, right? Like there are some folks who just, you know, are completely happy with just going into work, clocking in, clocking out, and that's it. And that's all they want to focus on. And then there are others who are driven to create, to build, to build community, to build businesses, to just, you know, build. So I think that has to do with also mindset. And I think part of that is, you know, you can go from one mindset to the other, but it could take time. Right. And I think another part of it is having that support system there, the support system of entrepreneurs, because if you have like-minded individuals who think like, yeah, let's create, let's build, let's establish, it makes it a little easier to navigate rather than those who are just like, no, what are you doing? Like, you finished work. Why do you want to do extra work? It doesn't make sense. Right. So I think that's another element that folks should just keep in mind. And so my question to you, kind of like around this whole idea of mindset and all that, I know when I first started the journey of entrepreneurship, one person had asked me, you know, is it hard or is it easy? And at first I was like, yeah, it's easy. And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, no, it's not. And so I attribute it to an analogy of rock climbing. And I don't know how many people have ever been rock climbing before. I'm not like a skilled professional, but I will say for me, that's what it feels like. It's like you've got one piece and you're looking for the footing of the next piece, and you got to kind of, you know, sometimes you get exhausted and you just want to hang on the ropes for a while, and then you got to get back on the wall and like start climbing again. So I'm curious from you two, if you had an analogy or a metaphor that you would use to describe the road or the journey of entrepreneurship, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know if I have a metaphor. I just think that the journey is full of twists and turns. It may be difficult, but I think when you get to the peak, there's nothing like it. And you will not regret it, and you won't look back with regret because of what it has afforded you in terms of freedom of time and freedom of money and freedom of your life.
Yeah, I don't really have an analogy either, but I agree with Nerissa there. I mean, it's totally worth it, you know. And just to go back a little bit, I heard something that I thought was brilliant the other day, where this guy said there are many ways to support Black businesses, right? And one of the ways are to actually work for a business, which I thought was brilliant. You know, I really liked that he said that, you know, and I could only speak for myself. Like, I have multiple businesses, and if I found someone, you don't need to start your business. If I found someone who was to come in and really make change and hard work and dedicate, I will give someone part of my businesses, you know, easily. So an alternative from starting a business is really get in where you know you can help and just be a part and grow with that company, you know. So anyways, I know I didn't answer your question, but
That's okay. No, that's a great nugget. I completely agree, right? And again, that's that whole idea of us uniting. You've said that a few times, Darren, and I'm in agreement, right? How do we come together, pool our resources, and really unite as a community? So I agree. Yep, 100%.
So, I mean, along those lines of uniting, I'd love to hear more about like what you both are doing to shape your businesses, shape the way that you work in a way that does unite people, because I know both of you do, and that's a big part of the value that you hold in what you're involved in. So I'd love to hear more about that, and maybe what we can take away in doing ourselves, whether we're in business already, or if we are thinking about it, or we're in careers where we need to also network and support each other in the businesses in which you work as well.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason I started the association, because I felt like as an entrepreneur myself, I didn't have those supports when I started. So I started bootstrapping and a, you know, side business, and then my husband and I put our businesses together to have a brick and mortar and to build from there. But I felt like we never really had or knew of anyone in our circles that were also entrepreneurs who had the same challenges that we could talk to, safe spaces to have these kinds of discussions, just support services that we felt comfortable, you know, being able to take part in. So the way I set up the association was just that. I wanted to be operationally focused. I wanted to be able to provide anyone who is thinking or has an ideation of, you know, I want to start a business, or my business is right now, it's just me, and I want to be able to scale it and take it to a level where a bank will invest in it or an investor will invest in it. You know, I wanted to have those supports that no matter what we put out there, a business owner or someone with an idea could come to us and say, we just came from that workshop, or we just came from that meeting or session or whatever, and we have some kind of tool, some tangible tool to go and work on and do something right now. And that's kind of how I created the foundation of the association. So we offer workshops to help to build competencies and help to build leadership and business skills. We try to bring in as many experts in whatever field they are to provide advice, sound advice and skill and training. We go to the government, for example, and we bring them in and we provide like boot camps to learn how to get procurement through the government, whether it's the BC government or the federal government. And I think if we give our people the tools to expand outside of what they're used to doing, I think that our community will be stronger and greater for it. And I think we're really going to build a very a strong community. And I really feel like operationally, we have to have that. We need to have that support given by us to us. And I think we need to have that support in terms of networking. So I think that along with the association, being able to network with our association, with spaces like yours, you've graciously brought in your course to give to our members. That was fantastic. I love that collaboration. I want to do more things like that, because I think leveraging the different expertise in the community is going to get us far, and showcasing all the value that everyone has to bring is going to get us far. And I'll leave it at that. But I think, I just think that the supports have to come from us. And when the youth see it coming from, they see those mentors within their community that look like them, they're going to be inspired to want to get into it earlier. And if we bring it to the youth earlier, then they are in a position now to think about entrepreneurship from a young age. I've seen SFU, for example, have a competition where they had as young as grade 4 doing pitch competitions.
Mm.
We can bring that to our youth. We can bring that to our kids and have them thinking and that entrepreneurial mindset from early, and we'll start to see more people, more teens, more millennials as we grow as a community, wanting to get into the entrepreneurial space if we celebrate it as a community.
Mhm.
Sorry, Darren, I just talked forever.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good. That's good. For me, my journey was a pretty lonely and painful one, right? And if I had resources, someone to turn to, help, advice, that would have helped me out a lot. And because of that, I I volunteer my time to anybody. Like, I'm a big believer in real estate, big believer in stocks. People can call me late at night, early morning, and I do it all for free. I try to help people understand it, and people think it's difficult, but it's really easy. But it's a big leap in your mind to understand it, right? So, and it does take time. It does take time. So what I am doing now in my journey, like, I try to help people, but honestly, it is hard. It is hard. You have a full-time job, you have family to take care of, you have friends, you have to navigate your own life. It's really difficult to take on something that's boring or something that's challenging or something that seems risky. So you just kind of block it out. No matter, it's important, real estate's going to go up, stock's going to go up, this type of stuff, but it's just a scary environment. So I keep thinking, how could I do better for other people? So I no longer create businesses for myself. I'm working now on creating easy to follow formats, just come in if I need to. So every business that I built now going forward, or every real estate venture that I do, I'm going to make it easy for people to come in. So I don't have money to buy real estate. What do I do? In my mind, it's simple. I look for partners. I go around and I ask people, you want to invest? You want to invest? I make a portfolio. I made a proposal, and I show how everybody will benefit and how they'll benefit in time. Simple for me, easy. For someone else, difficult. A lot of people are independent, so they don't like to ask for money. They don't want to go to their parents. They don't want to go to their friends. And I understand that. So now what I'm working on is making things easy and bite-sized for people to come in, make it fun for people to learn. And that's how we started the Bob group, and the whole idea of it was to build a community for people to have fun, not a normal business network and stuff. So you get things in bite-sized doses, but going forward, we're going to even expand more than that, where we're going to start businesses and then people can just come in, either work their way up, invest, grow, whatever, right? But it's going to be clearly laid out where, any business is a risk and any business is a fail, but you can see the track of progress and you can understand it way easier than trying to go it your own, or being scared or whatever, right? So that's my whole plan and vision for what I'm going to do in the future, to bring people on board and help people. In my mind, a lot of our problems are financial, a lot of it. And if you could secure that peace, freedom, you want the best for your kids, you want a nice home, everybody wants a nice car, they want to go on vacation. These are things we have to think about, like, okay, I'm going to go to St. Lucia 3 years from now, and I'm going to save, and so I just want to help people get to that level way faster, by creating clear paths for them to earn income. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I could see, like, one of the challenges in what you're doing, Darren, is like gaining trust, right? Like, we come from a history of people that have worked together to overcome challenges. And yet I think in this day and age, and I'm being perfectly frank in my own experience, like, there is trust barriers there around still working with each other to overcome barriers. So, I think that's I can imagine that that's a challenge in being able to build those relationships and have people like actually trust our own, that we have the expertise, we have the experience, we have a wealth of talent within our community where we can go to each other and support each other and know that we can benefit from that.
So that is the biggest challenge for the vision, right? But the thing is, as you are open, like I'm an open book. Like I literally show people my bank account. I show people my stock account. I show people, you know, and I have no. So another thing is people are afraid to, what's your credit score? Ooh, you know, how much money do you have? Ooh, you know, and I'm free and I'm open with it, right? And I try to tell people, how can anyone help, or how do you know you need help? Just like mental health, there's financial health, right? And if you keep quiet and you deep in debt, people can help. I can help people. People want to start a business, come to me, I'll invest. You know, you obviously have to put together a good, you know, I'm not going to invest in anything, you know, you have to give a proper proposal, and I can help with that and that type of stuff, right? So it's a trust comes in time. It comes in building community. It comes in getting to know each other. You know, it's you know, dive in, right? There's, you know, and I can't keep a secret. And I believe how I gain trust is to show people, these are my problems. These are where I'm at. This is where I'm at. This is my goal. This is what I feel I'm going to do. This is how much income I make. This is where I'm, you know, and then, you know, as you get to know someone, that trust just builds in time. And forums like these are important to do that, you know.
I think as people watch people like Darren as well build businesses that are collaborative like that, like how he was talking about Vera, and how he's trying to build that kind of structure to bring other people to help him to build businesses. I think as they watch him grow things like that in that way of partnership and cooperation, I think it's also going to build trust, because as they see that working, then they're going to see, okay, well, maybe I can trust situations like this as well. You know, so I think that what he's doing is fantastic, because it's not only helping other people, but it's helping to change the minds of those who might be skeptical about the process.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I just want to say one thing. I would go to people and I would say, oh, invest in stocks, buy this stock, buy that stock. And then they would say, how much money do I need to give you? And I'm like, no. I don't want to take your money. I don't want to do anything. I'm telling you what to buy. You're going to do your own money. And I'll have these conversations. And at the end of it, they'll still ask me, so how much do I need to give you? You know, I'm like, dude, it's like, no. You know, some people just have a mindset that they, you know, they don't want.
Nothing's for free.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. So they just like, I have to give you something. And I'm like, no. And that's trust. That's when they ask that question, they're not listening to the words that come out of my mouth. They just feel like I want something from them. So it's like, how much do I have to give you? How much do I have to give you? Nothing, right? It's weird, like, to have these conversations, and no matter how clearly I explain, I'm not touching you. I don't want to see your bank account. I don't want to know. I'm just giving you advice. It just comes back around to like, how much do I need to give you again? You know, so it's a long road we have to go on. You know, but. I'm up for a fight.
I think, again, you're talking about being transparent and modeling behavior. And I think, Shalima, when you were talking about the fears, it goes back to also kind of what Darren was saying when he's saying like, yeah, just, you know, do this, and people are like, I want to pay you. That also is part of the mentality when we think of, you know, some of the downside of capitalism. Like, capitalism can be good and bad, right? But that's where people, like, they're so conditioned to always have to pay for everything. And it's like, no, when we think, again, going back to our roots and our ancestry and all that stuff, you know, we were communal. We're about giving and sharing, and culturally, that's the type of people we are. So I think, yeah, it's again that mindset shift. If people can, you know, when someone says something, like, take it at face value. Once you're seeing that they're modeling a trustworthy behavior, right? So that's really cool. I think
balance in that, because so I will be devil's advocate in that, because, you know, we have to pay money in order to support our businesses, and so I think, Darren, I think when you get those questions about, do I have to pay you? I think that's a testament to the support that you do provide, that it's of value. And I could vouch for that in that I reached out to you on Facebook because you just said, like, reach out to me if you want to talk about this. And my husband wanted to connect with other people that were doing investments. And so, like, being able to create that connection is great, but you also provide value in what you share. And so there's this balance between, like, one, giving information and sharing knowledge, being transparent in the workplace, sharing what we make so that when other people are going in for a job, they can negotiate effectively and aren't held out of, like, knowing what it is that they're worth, but also valuing what we do provide and being okay with charging for certain services so that, you know, we do hold what we provide as.
So if I could jump, I think charging for services is very important because it is your time and it is your, and I'm not discounting that, and I'm just saying that when I do offer, and I don't offer it to everybody, I try to offer it to people of color because I feel that's my passion. You know, Joe Blow come off the street, it's like, honestly, you know, I don't, but for my friends and for whatever I want, or people that I know, acquaintances, I really want to help, you know. But I thought about charging for my services and that type of stuff too. I'm just saying that when I offer to some people for free, it's just, even no matter how much I tell them I'm not charging, I just really want you to do it. You know, people ask me questions, how? And I explain to them, I cannot teach you to ride a bike unless you jump on the bike, you know? So people ask me a million questions and I'm like, I can't, it's too much information. You have to start and I could navigate you through the questions as you develop. It's going to take a long time, but it's not difficult. And it doesn't have to be, everybody think you have to have a lot of money. Misconceptions, right? You have to have a lot of money, you know, you're going to lose your money, all this type of stuff. It's not true. It's not true. I mean, you can, but a little bit of education and stuff like that, it's like, you know, it's you know, my favorite thing is, do you think TD Bank is going to close down, right? The chances of that is like, you know, and it's simple to me. Buy TD Bank and just wait. You're going to make money. Simple, right? So, yeah, that's it.
You know, there's two quick points I just want to make off of what Darren was saying. And one is, not everyone wants to be or can be an entrepreneur. But I think to be supportive in the Black community, if you don't, that's not your journey and that's not your path, that's fine. But support Black businesses. And the same way you would support any other business, whatever they charge for their service or their product, you've got to have that same level of respect for Black businesses. And I really encourage you as a community to support Black business. And in saying that, I think we also have to take it upon ourselves to be accountable for what we do. So how Darren was saying, you know, they ask a million questions. You have to be able to take some information and go and do some work on your own. Yep. It's not kindergarten. You can't be spoon-fed every little thing. If you're ready to take the journey, then you have to take some accountability. And you have to do some work on your own. So he can't give you lead the breadcrumbs all the way to the pond and then give you a spoon and dip it out the pond and give it to you to drink. You have to do some work and you have to be prepared to do that. He's giving you his time to give you some information. Now take that and say, thanks, that's fantastic, and do some work. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think that I feel like oppression has bred a little bit of complacency in us at some level. And I really think that we have to be able to step out of that and take and do some of the work. You have to be willing to do work, whether it's looking to buy stocks or to be an entrepreneur.
So I something that's very important. Like, I agree with what you said, Nerissa, but when I grew up really poor. I grew up like really poor, no running water, bathroom outside. It was hard. Like, we had to walk down a hill, bucket on our heads, take water up, you know. And the thing is that your mind can't go out and learn other things. You can't, because you're just so accustomed to it. It seems like a big leap. Like it's easy for you to say, and I try to put myself in that mindset, like where I was and how the things I used to do, like I can't see myself doing it again. But it's like now it's like, but I didn't know better. Yeah, everybody knows you can just go on Google and whatever, but sometimes you just need that support, you know, to help. So like I agree with what you're saying, but I understand the challenges, so I don't mind going through. But 100% at some point you need to start Googling and researching and 100. But I just realized to some people, it's just, to a lot of people actually, it's not that easy because they don't have a passion, and there's nothing wrong with it. They don't have a passion for it. You know, they just know you could make money, so they're curious, you know. But to me,
and you've got to turn that switch in their mind.
Yeah.
And once you turn that switch in their mind, then it starts to flow.
Yeah. And if you get on that bike and you listen, like a lot of people start trading stocks and then they go buy all these funny things and lose their money and they never do it again, right? Because they want to make that fast cash, you know? But if anybody really truly listened to me after a while, and there are some people that do, you get it, you understand, you know? Anyway, there's not a stock chat, so I'll stop there.
No, but it's you know what you're saying, Darren, is on point, because when people are in that mindset of survival, it's very challenging to, you know, shift gears and focus on, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to do this, right? So when we're steeped in just surviving, and you gave a great example of how you grew up. So it may not even be of someone growing up poor. It could just be someone who's going through trauma in their life, right? So you know, a different type of trauma of, you know, navigating through some of these space, not this space, but other spaces in this country, right? So racism, right? The systemic racism here, right? So that can also create a mental block so that people cannot move forward in this journey, right? So these are also things to consider. So I can definitely appreciate that, where sometimes people do need that hand holding for a bit, and then, like you all, and I completely agree, and then at some point they need to fly, right? You can't keep holding on to the bike seat and be like pedal, 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 and, you know, no, at some point you got to let go and the training wheels got to come off and people got to go and do their thing. I think we were going to see if there were any questions people wanted to throw into the chat or jump on and say, ask any questions. We've got about 5 minutes left before we kind of close up, but are there any questions, comments, thoughts people have on this topic? Feel free to engage. Yep, go ahead, Renita.
Hello. Sorry, I'm not camera ready today, so my video's off.
That's okay.
But I just wanted to go back to something that Nerissa touched on earlier on. You mentioned, you know, there's a lot of grants out there. There's a lot of resources available if somebody wants to launch a new business, get started with a business plan and whatnot. What recommendations or resources would you recommend to somebody who says, okay, great, but I really don't know how to write a business plan, for example?
So I think there's a number of ways you can start. So number one, you can Google, that's free. And there's a lot of free resources out there to help you start to craft a business plan. There's our association. We can help you start that journey to discovering there's different sections of a business plan, and you just have to tackle it one piece at a time. And I know sometimes it can feel overwhelming, but if you deal with it one section at a time, we can help you flesh that out. We also just launched an ebook on how to write a business plan. So that resource, it's $29. It's not an expensive investment for you to begin that journey on your own. And then if you're thinking, if you have more funding and you want more assistance, then there are strategists who can actually write a business plan for you, who can audit the business plan that you've already written, and help you to craft it so that it is ready to be seen by a banker. So it depends on where you are in the journey and how much assistance that you need. There's different types of support for you for business plan writing.
Thank you. A lot of good information there.
Great.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mars.
My question's for Darren in regards to your business. How do you find new business? Like, what kind of lead generation do you do in order to find clients to help?
Originally, I basically just Google. I started to learn about advertising, digital marketing, and that type of stuff. I pretty much did it myself, and it was very difficult because you feel like you're losing your money. You know, you don't have the money to spend, but you have to do it. How do you get leads? I also what's the thing? 9 degrees of separation or whatever. I just I like to talk. I'm like, hey, could you help me? Do you know anybody who wants cleaning? Do you know anybody who wants this? Do you know anybody who wants that? And then I leverage them to leverage their friends, to leverage their other friends, and then go. I try everything in the book, right? Like Nerissa saying, I Googled and I studied and I walk around guerrilla marketing, going to community centers. You know, I had no real way to track it, but now we live in a digital world, and everything you do is, I would advise anybody thinking about starting a business, spend a lot of time learning about digital marketing, and you are going to win. You know, there is a cost to it, but it's trackable, it's scalable, you can adjust, you get so much information. And today with YouTube and all that type of stuff, you can just sit down and just absorb and learn as you need to go. You know, so
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess it's around that time. It's 1 o'clock. So as we, thank you, Darren. We saw you.
Just side note, I have to remind myself to eat at times. So that's what that alarm was. So 1 o'clock is when I know I have to eat. Because I'm so busy in a day. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. As we just wrap up here, we're going to ask you to our signature question that we normally ask our guests. And it is, would you consider yourself a fast wine or a white wine?
Or red wine?
And why?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Fast wine all the way. I like the tempo. I like the movement. Fast wine.
Thank you, Darren.
I'm kind of leaning towards fast wine, just because I like to fast wine, but I also like to, in my daily life, I just move fast. I like to move things fast. So fast wine. And Soka kind of like prompts fast wine, right? That's what we do. As Bajans, that's what we do. So we fast wine.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. And thank you to our audience for being here today to listen to this wonderful conversation. We hope that you found it inspiring and engaging. Shalima, do you want to let folks know where they can continue to follow us on some of our social media sites? You know, we're on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and everything, and YouTube as well, because the recording will be on there. So thank you so much again to our wonderful guests, Darren and Nerissa, and our audience again. Shalima, do you want to hit the tunes as we wind out? Wind out of here.
Fast wine
out of here.
Thanks for having us, though. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining.